Hello everybody, we're ready to go on field trip number 3. This is going to be along the northern edge of the Elliott State Forest. The northern boundary is either Highway 38 or the river, or maybe it comes and goes. There's private land through there, and we'll be going to Loon Lake. Those roads were built in the 1920s, the state highway, and Jerry thinks the county road was also built in the 1920s. You'll see I don't have my map here to show us where we've been. I left it in David's car, so hopefully we'll have it next week. We will be looking at the map on the computer instead, and be coming in through the Scottsburg entrance on the north, and traveling to the Elk Viewing Area near Reedsport before going south to Loon Lake. Okay, here's the trip we're going to be taking today. We're going to start at Scottsburg at the McCulloch Bridge, Scottsburg Park, mount the Mill Creek, which had a mill there, sawmill, in 1850, Brandy Bar, which had drunk sailors there in 1850, Hinsdale Gardens, which was built during the 1950s mostly, abandoned for 30 years, and now BLM has brought it back to very beautiful shape. And then the Elk Viewing Area. Those are on the perimeter, the northern boundary of the Elliott State Forest, which is either the Umpqua River or the highway, or small bits of private property along the way. But we're going to be traveling along the recreational attributes on the northern boundary of the Elliott. Then we're going to come down to Loon Lake, which used to be a commercial logging enterprise, go up to Huckleberry Point, which is a small part of the Elliott, maybe a quarter acre or half acre on the east side of Loon Lake. The BLM campground, which is near the mouth of Loon Lake at the headwaters of Mill Creek. Visit an old growth on the road to Cougar Pass. Go to Indian Point, where the Johnson family homesteaded, and end up at the log dump, which is the head of tidewater, head of canoe traffic, and where the logs were put into Mill Creek and tidewater, and then moved down to the Gardner Mill, beginning maybe in the 1850s, but certainly up through the early 1900s, through the 2 or 3 different mills that operated out of Gardner up until recent years. Here we are in Scottsburg, the entryway to the Elliott State Forest. Here's the McCulloch Bridge. They're now building a new span. This is one of the famous McCulloch bridges that went along the highway, but from a short distance from here we'll visit Scottsburg Park, and then we'll have the entryway to Loon Lake, and we'll be on the Elliott State Forest. One other thing, this is the head of navigation, so canoe traffic for hundreds of years, and then steamboat and sailboat traffic beginning in 1850 were major activities here at Scottsburg on the Umpqua River. We're at Scottsburg Park. This is near the head of high tidewater, so the Coiche Indians would be going up and down the river through here. This is a normal boat launch. Everything is closed down because of the coronavirus regulations, and the bridge at Scottsburg, the actual head of tidewater, is under construction right now. We're at the mouth of Mill Creek. In 1850, people sailed from San Francisco and settled here. They built a sawmill. They built a ship that went on the ocean. There's an apple orchard. And then The floods of 1861-62 took out all the final remnants of these structures here. So now there's a small piece of private property on the other side of Mill Creek, and we're on Elliott State Forest land right here. This was acquired in trades by Jerry Phillips. Because of the coronavirus regulations, all the parks are closed. This is a wayside, Brandy Bar wayside, and people are not allowed to use the restroom or dump garbage here or even park. We're at Brandy Bar wayside. It's a boat launch, picnic spot, a beautiful location, and it is currently closed down. We're here at Hinsdale Rhododendron Gardens. It's a beautiful place. It was built by Mr. Hinsdale in the early 1900s, mid 1900s. He gathered plants from all over the world. This used to be an island, and he filled it in with the material dredged from the Umpqua River and brought in full-grown plants here from England and Portland and different places. We're with some azaleas here. There's some camellias here, but the showcase is the rhododendrons. Mr. Hinsdale brought in some of these plants that are probably 100 years old or older. He brought them in full size. It's just a beautiful traditional garden, and then it was abandoned for 30 years. But the rhododendrons and other azaleas persisted, and about 15 years ago, local people got interested in preserving these grounds, and so they formed a group. Bureau of Land Management purchased them along with the rest of the Hinsdale estate, and created the elk pasture as well as this a beautiful rhododendron garden. Here we see some beautiful mollis azaleas and some regular azaleas in their own little garden spot. BLM has got this beautifully maintained. There's picnic tables, there are outhouses, there's all kinds of visitor amenities, and no visitors. Here we can see how big some of these rhododendrons are. They're tree size. These are, as I say, 100 years old. They were brought here full size, full grown, and they've managed to do very well despite being abandoned for 30 or 40 years. Here's one of the very large spruce trees on the property. This doesn't necessarily have to be very old. It might be 50 or 60 years is all. Spruce grow real fast. We're in this coastal fog belt, but there's half a dozen or a dozen spruce trees throughout the property, a few cedar, and some Oregon myrtle. This is one of the bigger ones. We are here at the BLM Elk Viewing Area, or elk pasture as Jerry Phillips calls it. Right now it's closed because of coronavirus. It's a popular stop for people. There are restrooms here. There are about 120 elk in the field, and quite often there are a lot of beautiful birds as well. They've renamed the Interpretive Center after O.H. Hinsdale, whose family owned this property for many years before Bureau of Land Management got it and turned it into an elk viewing area. We're at the Hinsdale Elk Viewing Gazebo. You can see interpretive signs here. So we've got different kinds of signs. We've got interpretive signs, directional signs. Lately we've got warning signs, and we've also got historical information signs. So all the main signs for recreational interpretation and direction are all contained here at the newly named Hinsdale Wayside. Here's an example of a historical sign. It gives off information. It's not interpretive, it's not directional, and it's not a warning, and it tells about the biologists that helped create this wayside. Okay, we're at the second viewing area on the BLM Elk Viewing Area. Here we have interpretive signs with questions and answers for school kids and interested visitors regarding the birds. We can see elk out here. There's another set of benches and interpretive signs, and there's a second restroom behind us, which is not locked today. One type of recreational job we don't think about too often is somebody's got to build and maintain these restrooms. So weekly they need to be cleansed and new supplies put in. And so that's the thought when we're maintaining recreational areas, is taking care of day-to-day things such as restrooms. Here we are at Loon Lake Lodge and gas station. This place is usually packed. They've got a restaurant here. It's right on the lake. They've got tents, yurts, cabins, boating, and it's all shut down at this point because of coronavirus. These are the cabins and a few yurts from Loon Lake Lodge, and normally they'd be occupied at this time of year. You'd hear a lot of kids yelling. There'd be traffic here, and it's all vacant and empty. It's shut down, and it's late April. Everything's in bloom, and everything is shut down. We're at the boat launch. This used to be a log pond. It's privately owned, and it's totally empty in April. There'd normally be a lot of boats here. There would be people playing. There would be a lifeguard on duty maybe because people would be swimming, but now it is eerily vacant. Okay, we're on Huckleberry Point, which is a short ways from the Loon Lake Lodge. And where the car is, that's a nice little BLM campground. It's closed, of course. And where all these trees are with a couple old growth in them, that is BLM property. There's just a small, maybe half acre. And then as we move further, we see the huckleberry brush on Huckleberry Point. So this is Elliott State Forest land, but it'd probably be difficult to develop, but it's a nice spot to pick huckleberries. We're on Huckleberry Point, named because of all the huckleberries on it. Undoubtedly an old gathering area for centuries for this fruit. We're right next to a small BLM piece. This is one of the few areas of the Elliott Forest on the east side of Loon Lake. It's only about a quarter, maybe half acre in size. It's got a telephone line into it. Most of the trees have been logged off, so the trees we see over to my right are on the BLM campground, which is also closed. Okay, this is the BLM campground, Loon Lake Campground. It was closed over a year ago because of snow damage, created hazardous conditions and hurt a lot of the facilities, damaged them. And now it's closed this year because of the coronavirus pandemic. So this has been closed now for 2 years, and it's one of the nicest campgrounds anywhere. This is the outlet to Loon Lake. It's Mill Creek. This area was dynamited 80 or 90 years ago to let logs out when they used to store logs in the lake. Here's the outlet, the other side of the bridge of Mill Creek. Headwaters with boulders that are a result of landslides and that formed Loon Lake, and also the dynamiting when this was a logging area. Okay, I'm standing next to one of the very few remaining old growths on the Elliott State Forest. It probably dates back to the 1770 fire. That'd make it 250 years old, fairly young for old growth, but it's a beautiful tree, except the top blew out. Somewhere in this neighborhood used to be the tallest Douglas fir on the Elliott State Forest. They found it about 30 years ago. It might have been this tree before the top blew out, but this is definitely one of the largest and oldest trees remaining on the Elliott. About 1% or less of the entire forest is old growth, but it's scattered trees such as this, 1 or 2 or 3 an acre in just a few spots here and there. We're up above Mill Creek on Cougar Pass Road, about a half mile or so off the main Loon Lake County Road. Well, this is really pleasant to see. The last few years we've been here, this area has been filled with garbage, old tires, camp out supplies. This has been a homeless shelter for a long time, up until about 3 years ago. And even fairly recently, it still had a lot of garbage and trash, which we've documented before. So we're right at the crossroads on Indian Point. Come down from the main parking area. The Ridgeline Road is still blocked up with huckleberries, and we're going to go down to Mill Creek. We're on Indian Point, where it reaches Mill Creek. The Johnson family had an Indian land claim here. There's all kinds of indication of salmonberry, huckleberry, elderberry, all kinds of edible plants. Let's look across the river there. There's Oregon myrtle, which has edible nuts, big leaf maple. It looks like a Port Orford white cedar. Lots of Douglas fir trees, and some of them old growth. So the Johnson family that was here left probably 30, 50 years ago, likely lower Umpqua Indians, Kuish or Kilowatsets, and they eventually moved up to Siletz. Now there's other Indian land claims in the Elliott. Another one with another Johnson or the same Johnson family. That's a fairly common name among the early Indians in the 1850s and 1860s. But this then became part of the Elliott State Forest. Mill Creek was a big logging area. This area has all been logged. Early 1900s, late 1800s, and now it's a beautiful hike, and carries the name Indian Point after the Johnson family. Here we are near the head of Tidewater on Mill Creek, so Kuish Indians would be able to go from the coast all the way into here on the tide and leave on the tide. Tidewater is a little bit further up. The Johnson family would have had to take a foot trail or maybe a horseback trail once they got above canoe travel here. During recent history, this was a log dump. So once they stopped using the lake to store logs, they would haul them down here by log truck, put them into the water, and as the tide went out, they could float the logs down Mill Creek, down the Umpqua, to the Gardner Mill, which has been there since the 1850s. It's been there a very long time, and most of the logs from this area that got logged off went to the Gardner Mill, many of them by this route from Tidewater down.
All right.
Okay, everybody, that was the end of field trip number 3. Next week, we'll be going with Jerry Phillips and David Gould, entering in from the old Elkside mill site, going along Benson Ridge into the old CC grounds, and then visiting David's ancestors' cabin sites, site of Gould Lake, and another stop at Jerry Phillips Reserve. So we'll see you next week.